We're at the Gold Strike Trail this morning. It is about the third week in December, and yeah, Christmas is this week, and it's one of the shortest days of the year. So we're starting out now at it's about 6:15, 6:30. Turnaround point is 11:30. So here at the Gold Strike Trailhead, what we're going to do is look at the terrain between the lower Gold Strike Trail and Gold Strike Mountain. We want to see what is involved in making that traverse between the lower Gold Strike Trail and the summit of Gold Strike Mountain. So here we go. We won't spend too much time documenting the route down Gold Strike Trail, but just to mention here, this is one amazing canyon. Very wild, rugged. As a matter of fact, if you are heading up to Hoover Peak, right around the corner is your left turn up the hill, up to the top of the ridge to those towers. Take a right on the top of the ridge, head down a gully, and you can see Hoover Peak in front of you. So it's a pretty nice adventure, and you can see that adventure on LasVegasAreaTrails.com. But onward toward Gold Strike Mountain. And here's the exact ascent point to Hoover Peak. Winding around up the ridge and reaching that tower on the left. And then there's actually a road up there that you can stand on, at least, to take some pictures before you begin to descend toward Hoover Peak. Check out the adventure on LasVegasAreaTrails.com on how to get there. And just to give you surroundings here, we have just crossed under the I-11 bridge, gone a little bit further, and here we are basically under the power lines. That's a good way to know where to begin ascending to Hoover Peak. Okay, onward down the trail, and we're going to go just a bit past the first rope area on the trail, and then we're going to take a right up a gully toward Gold Strike Mountain. Continuing down this beautiful canyon, and you can see the sun is getting ready to rise. You can see the clouds are colored as a backdrop to the rugged ridges around us. You still see the moon. Continuing on. Continuing downward, but on the way down, I'm always looking for potential ascent points up to the ridges above. And this looks like one that's worthy of exploration at some point in the future. And you can see that a lot of this area is really guarded by cliff walls. We're looking at the south side of Gold Strike Trail, now circling around. Okay, continuing down. Continuing down the trail, but just wanted to point this out. At this point, you can see some of the writing on the rock here. There is another potential ascent gully. Now, there is a barrier about 1,000 feet up this gully. If you can get past the barrier, you could potentially get to the upper ridge on the south side of Gold Strike Canyon. Let's give you an idea of where we are. Oh, there's a little arch up there. A lot of surprises if you take some time to look around. Wow, look at these walls. And there's an echo here. Everything is so closed in at this point. Almost a slot canyon, not quite. So there you have it. As we continue down the trail, notice the main trail hits a drop off. Yeah, you're probably not gonna go down this. But if you look closely at the rocks above, you can see that there is a bypass. And the term I use for reaching a barrier is when there's a barrier, look for a bypass. And of course, yeah, here's an arrow to help you find it if you miss it. Yes, it's a little rocky. Nothing super difficult though. Still probably a low class 2 or low class 3, high class 2. And then you can see things descending there, but this bypass continues around. So let's just see where it goes. And then you can see, yeah, there, maybe there's a descent point here. Yeah. So rather than go up, we're going here, and I see a little red arrow. So let's check this descent point out. We may need to go a little further up and around. Somehow I seem to remember that red arrows indicate a little steeper terrain. And the red arrow route here does descend nicely down to the main canyon. So let's continue down this way. And I'm going to be watching to see if there was another higher bypass that might have been a little more gradual. Okay, we just came down this. There is that little red arrow. And over here, looking toward the area that we bypassed. And it looks like this first little vertical area is not too bad, but there is another vertical area, much steeper, drop off beyond. So yeah, you didn't want to come down that way. And let's see if there's another bypass down the canyon. Yeah, I think that if you had kept to your left at that red arrow, you would have found a more gradual, though a little higher, bypass. I ended up down in these boulders with the red arrow. Not really bad, but there are a few places where you got to slide down something that's very, very smooth and steep, but just about 6 feet at the most. Yeah, if you don't like doing that, then stick to this other route that's more on the south side of the canyon. Continuing down, we're closing in on that first rope section, and the pathway that we want to approach the gully toward Gold Strike Mountain is between the first rope and the second rope. And then here is a rock formation referred to as the praying mantis, for obvious reasons. Pretty cool. And then looking around the canyon. And you can see the sun is now risen and affecting the canyon walls. I don't know if this is a potential route up the south side of the canyon. It looks to me like it would involve some steep sections, but still could be class 3. Have to try it out at some point. Okay, continuing downward. We're now at that first rope section, and you can see, here's the rope. You want to hold on to it, and yeah, if you look closely, you can see that there are actually some stairs over in this direction. So make it to the stairs and you could actually climb down the neat little slick stairway. But it's probably a good idea to hold onto the rope whichever way you go. Of course, you could go straight down if you want, and that's a possibility too. I'm going to go for the stairway. So here we go. Okay, here's a look up the stairway. It actually looks easier on the way up. The rock is very slick. So yeah, I suggest you hold on to the rope for protection. You take the stairs, and then once you reach this narrow section, you're going to have the rock on your right and on your left as a wedge in a way to continue upward once you get up there to this area. You pretty much made it. But wow, it is slick. And if it is wet, if it's been raining, no, I wouldn't try it unless you want to just rappel down with the rope. And I don't trust this rope. A lot of people have been using it. And now from the rope section, looking ahead, you're into a wider area. I'll show you an alternate route up to Hoover Peak in just a moment. We're going to get into an open section here. Just a minute. Let's grab my trekking poles. Okay. So, yeah, we emerge into a more open section, and you've got options now in 2 different directions. The option toward Hoover Peak, which I think we can see up ahead. Yeah, there is, I believe, Hoover Peak. And we'll continue just looking around over here. Okay, if you're going up to Hoover Peak, this is a good route. And you can see we are on the Gold Strike Trail. Here are some wooden power poles. That's a good indication that you are at a point where you could turn toward Hoover Peak. And you want to hug the left side over here, left side of this ridge. I mean the right side of the ridge, but it's to your left here. And then wind around, and then on up, you're going to wind around the left side of this rock formation in the center here. And then you'll reach a saddle, take a right turn. That'll take you right up to Hoover Peak. And you'll find yourself on this ridge, eventually taking you up to Hoover Peak. So what we're looking for now is an ascent point up in this direction toward Gold Strike Mountain. So I don't know if it's this opening or if it's a little further and it's this next opening. We're going to find out. May have to explore both of them a bit. We don't know. And here is looking up the trail that we have just descended. Back over to the Hoover Peak approach. And you make a nice loop of the Hoover Peak trail. You see that on LasVegasAreaTrails.com. Or actually a loop of the Hoover Peak summit. It's not a trail. Okay, and this is looking down the main Gold Strike Canyon Trail. Okay, here we are at the second rope. And I wanted to get up above here just to take a look at the terrain. And I'm thinking this is the canyon that we want. And so what I'm going to do is descend here. Maybe we'll need to go back to that second rope. I don't know. But I want to get down to this area and could have taken the rope actually. And then just see what it's like ascending this channel. And if this doesn't work, then we're back up here and we're going to ascend that opening that was at the power lines. So let's try this one first. Actually, there was a nice little bypass for that second rope. Goes up on the right side or the south side, the north side of the canyon. On up and around. Or you could take the rope. There's the rope. Either way, you'll be able to cross this little barrier. But now, here we are. I almost wonder if that is Gold Strike Mountain. up ahead that you can see through this canyon? We don't know. We need to ascend this area now. Let's see what's involved here, scrambling up these rocks and then continuing on up. Here we go. And by the way, here's a look down the canyon. You're only 2 ropes away from the Colorado River. Very beautiful down there if you just want to do the Gold Strike Trail. Okay, made it up over the first little barrier here. And actually, one nice thing about this area, not as many people use it, and therefore the rocks are not so smooth. There's a lot of grip. And as you can see, we continue upward, and yeah, it's not an easy giveaway, but let's just see what lies ahead. And looking around, wow, look at this terrain. Now I've got to say that when you're navigating some semi-vertical areas like this, always make sure that whatever you go up, you can descend again. Whatever you descend, you can ascend. So you can go both directions over any barrier that you traverse so that you don't get caught. Okay, onward. As you can see, lots of boulders. Here's looking back toward Gold Strike Canyon. And here's looking forward. So yeah, get used to it. There are a lot of boulders, and it's just weaving around and finding the best route. And we'll see if we can do so without ending up at a impassable barrier. The going is a lot slower, and so just plan on make sure you have your turnaround time. That's why I set 11:30 as a turnaround time. It's 8:15 right now. So continuing on up carefully. Okay, this is looking back, and this doesn't really give justice to the boulders I just climbed over. But here we are now, looking upward. Kind of a flatter spot without boulders right here, but you never know what's around the corner. So let's continue. You can tell by the footprints in this gravel that this is a fairly well traveled little canyon, at least up to this point. Always watching for that next barrier. We could be stopped at any point. Okay, now we're into a more open area. Don't know how long this will last. Now, it seems, according to directions, that Gold Strike Mountain would be on the other side of this formation. One could go up this direction or around this way. I think I'm going to stick to the main wash, which continues around the left side of this formation. If I'm wrong, then we may return here. Okay, onward. Here's a little bypass I came up just now. little ledge that bypasses all this vertical stuff below. And then you lower yourself to this little rock and continue on. Let's see how this works. Here's a climber that didn't make it. Bighorn sheep. We don't know what happened here. Was he ambushed in this spot by a mountain lion? Or did he fall from the cliffs above? We don't know. But my vote is going to be mountain lion ambush. There you have it. And continuing onward, you can see where it looks pretty nice heading up the canyon. And except for some brush, it's been pretty nice after that barrier that we bypassed a little bit earlier. So everything's looking good at this point. There are two peaks on the same ridge. One is Gold Strike Mountain, and then the other is a peak just east. And I'm guessing this is the peak to the east, meaning that Gold Strike Mountain is going to be to the right of that peak. And continuing up this little wash, and yeah, another little barrier up ahead. Doesn't look too bad, but we'll see when we get there. But the thing, I believe, is to get around this next corner where we can see both peaks and then work out a route to get up to the ridge between them. And then just to give you an idea where we are. Yeah. High walls all around us. The white streaks that you see are calcite from the interaction of water with the rock. And this is looking down this little side canyon. And around and back to this next stretch. Let's see what lies ahead. And I'm still seeing signs of footprints around in this gravel. So I'm thinking that I'm not the only one to travel up this little canyon. Well, that was a harder section than it looked from below. Yeah, tight squeeze. I think it'll be easier to lower myself down that section than it was to raise myself up, working against my weight and also the backpack, which got wedged in the rocks. Okay, onward. Let's see what lies around this next corner. And believe me, we could reach a showstopper barrier at any point as we continue up this little canyon. Okay, now I see the light, and it looks as if we've got Gold Strike Mountain right there. I could be wrong. We'll find out, but my bet is that that's Gold Strike Mountain, and this is the peak to the east, which I'll identify by a note on the video. And now here we are, wide open. And yeah, looking around, Here's the terrain, kind of blinded by the sun rising to the east. Look up here. That's a little arch. And if you thought you were in the remote wilderness, the air traffic above will remind you you are not. Okay, let's continue around now. We're leaning a little toward the right, and hopefully we'll reach a point where we can see an ascent up to the ridgeline between Gold Strike Mountain and the peak to the east. Well, it's surprising. I'm expecting around every corner to be encountered by a 20-foot dry fall, but not so far. Here's looking back down the wash, and up to now it's been fairly easy. Been a few light rock scrambles, maybe 4 to 6 feet high, with good handholds and footholds. Encountered a barrier down below. Looking for a bypass that'll get me to the next stretch in this canyon. And this isn't looking like the one I want. I guess I could shimmy along the edge of this ledge, but it's a very narrow ledge with a huge drop off. So I'm gonna go back down and see if I can find another way around the barrier. Looks like the canyon continues beyond. Descended a little higher. There's the route I took to get to where I am. There's where I was when I last checked in with the video. And what I'm seeing here is a route that may continue on up and around the direction I want to go. So and this may be the canyon that I was in just a bit ago when I came up to this point. So anyway, yeah, let's descend here and then head up this opening between this ridge I'm on and the next ridge over. And by the way, yes, there is that arch. So indeed, that canyon below is the canyon that I was in when I wound around the corner and reached a barrier. So yeah, let's see what things look like going up this canyon. As you can see, I just kept ascending this ridge line. There's the canyon that we originally ascended that connects with Gold Strike Canyon. And by the way, yeah, I think this is Hoover Peak. And there's the highway, Highway 11. And you can see a really nice gradual ascent from that canyon had I taken a left turn a little earlier. And it continues around. So I think I'm going to continue. Maybe I'll descend to that nice gradual slope. And I think what we're looking at is Gold Strike Peak on the right and the other peak just to the left, to the east. We don't know for sure, but yeah, we're heading in that direction at least. Well, I continued up this ridgeline and gradual slope just to see where it leads. And it looks like my original gully might be over in this direction. We're not sure. Gold Strike Mountain is somewhere in this direction. So maybe I descend again and it's a huge bypass of that blockage that was in the wash below. Or maybe it's not, we don't know. But let's continue to explore around in this area and just see what we can find. By the way, there I believe is Fortification Hill on the Arizona side of the Colorado River. And through this opening is Highway 11. And I believe it's possible this is Hoover Peak. I know that this here is the little peak beyond when we descended Hoover Peak and went out to the further point. And then another shot of Highway 11 a little further up. And you see the bridge there. Some vehicles on it. Very rugged volcanic landscape all around. Okay, let's see if we can skirt the right side of this ridge ahead and get a better view of what's beyond. And up here, we're not sure. This may be the peak that's to the east of Gold Strike Mountain. This may be that peak. We just don't know. But if that's correct, then Gold Strike Mountain would be to the right. And just a chance it could be this, but I wouldn't bet on it yet. I can't see the surroundings well enough. Okay, rounded the next corner, which is this ridgeline, and there was actually a little Bighorn sheep trail, the Bighorn Express, leading me from that gradual slope I was on over this ridgeline. Let's just get a better view of the whole area. And there is the canyon that I ascended from Gold Strike Canyon. Definitely in the helicopter path for tourists. And here's the continuation of that canyon. Below And up here is Gold Strike Mountain. So yeah, definitely heading in that direction. We'll be getting to our turnaround point soon, but let's just see how far we get. Okay, I'm in that original gully, and there is a barrier below. So this cairn that I just erected there means take a right, head over this ridge, find a little bighorn sheep trail, and eventually you'll reach a slope that'll land you, nice gradual slope will land you in the lower portion of this canyon that we've been in all the way from Gold Strike Canyon. And then looking around here, yeah, interesting. We want to be up on that Horizon Mountain, Gold Strike Mountain. I don't know where this is leading, but I'm going to continue up this canyon, see if it rounds a corner and shows a really nice approach to Gold Strike Mountain. That's my hope. I wanted to get up on this ridge so I can look down on the wash and just see where that leads. And yeah, you can see it leading up and around. So I think I'll descend into the wash again and take it a little further. There is Gold Strike Mountain. And I'm not sure we're on a path to that mountain unless we come around a corner and see a really nice approach. I'm not seeing it right now. And then here's looking around. There's that little ridge I came over that leads back to the canyon that we started out. And here's my cairn below. So I want to always keep in mind the route back out of this wilderness, because wow, it is, you can just get lost in these canyons if you don't keep track of where you are and your escape route. Okay, just came up to this point. I knew things were not looking good when this canyon continued to narrow. And yeah, looks like there's a barrier here. I'm going to backtrack, see if we can go around some way. I still got another 50 minutes before the turnaround point. Okay, just came up from the canyon, coming up this little gully, and yeah, I don't think we're on target to hit Gold Strike Mountain today. However, I do want to explore the wilderness around the mountain, and I want to get out of the gully so I can see where we are. And I think this will take me up to a high point where we've got a view. We can look at our surroundings, and regardless, I could head back down here, back down to the canyon below, and then take a left and return by the way I came. But I want to get a good view before the day's out, before I reach my turnaround point. I'm going to go up to that horizon ridge there up above. Okay, we're looking into the sun, but yeah, I see the route, and it would work. If I had stayed on the slopes on the far side of this rock in the foreground, this huge rocky hill. Far side of that, and then look at the ascent. Right up to the place between Gold Strike Mountain on the right and the other peak on the left. So there you have it. I'm not going to do that today, but yes, I believe that would work. Today I'm going to continue upward here and just get a really good look around. So let's go. Well, I'm glad I ascended to this ridge, because now you can see in greater clarity the pathway up to Gold Strike Mountain on the right and that other peak on the left to the east. And then looking around, pretty spectacular. We're looking down at Hoover Dam in the background, Fortification Hill. Let's go to Fortification Hill first. There's Fortification Hill, Arizona side. Here's Hoover Dam and the I-11 bridge. And by the way, there's Hoover Peak. And you can see where you descend to this lookout. You'll see that on the LasVegasAreaTrails.com Hoover Peak adventure. Let's go up a little further. See what we can see around this area. Very rugged. Not sure I want to try and find a way back to the trailhead, which Gold Strike trailhead would be over in this direction in the canyons below. Yeah, not sure I want to do that today. In fact, over this ridge, the canyon over this ridge in the foreground, between this ridge and Hoover Peak, that canyon is indeed Gold Strike Canyon, and there are those wooden power poles where we first, I guess where we descended from that first rope line in the canyon trail. So yeah, for now, let's go a little higher and see what routes we can find, or we can always turn around. And by the way, the peak over here, my guess is that that's Rough Peak on the horizon there. Few little peaks between where we're standing and Rough Peak. Okay, let's continue, go a little further, see what we can find. Okay, we are at a turnaround point, so I just want to take stock of where we are and different options. There is one gully leading upward. I think there was a barrier in that gully, or it was fairly rugged down at the bottom especially. Looks like once you get a little higher though, slope is gradual, and you see Gold Strike Mountain on the right and that other peak on the left to the east. And definitely we were right in the helicopter path for tourists flying over Hoover Dam and Grand Canyon. You can hear. Okay, there's that canyon I was in just a moment ago. I reached a barrier, but yeah, one could actually ascend to this point and then descend again into the canyon below. And then look at that. There's another approach to the ridge line that leads up to Gold Strike Mountain. So there you can see a couple options. Here's another peak. I'm not sure what this is. And then moving around, this is looking up toward the beginning of the Gold Strike Trail. You can see Highway 11 up here in that red rock section there. Rough Peak, I'm pretty sure. And then back over this way. And you can see in the distance here, the Hoover Dam area. That's on the railroad trail, actually. I think one of those white buildings is a construction yard. Here's Hoover Peak. And then over here, Hoover Dam. And then, yeah, beyond Hoover Dam, Fortification Hill. And then over in this direction, now you've got a good shot of Mount Wilson in Arizona. This is the gully I just descended over the edge of this high point. And I think we'll go back down the way we came because I know that route works. And out here, boy, you can get blocked by a whole lot of barriers at any turn. So it's best, if you don't know the whole area, to retrace your way back the way you came. Okay, and then the canyon below and leading up to the Gold Strike Mountain ridgeline. Gold Strike Mountain. I know that there is a road up over in that direction, but I don't know how close it is. That would take us all the way back, but it's a longer trek. So yeah, I'm gonna return the way we came. I pretty much retraced my way back to the Gold Strike Trail. And yeah, here is in better lighting the route up toward Hoover Peak. And you see where you just wind upward on the ridge right in the center there, and then you shoot for this tower. So we'll make it a little larger. And so it just involves weaving around up that ridge line. And you can do it. It's not that difficult. You just want to watch every step. But yeah, you can do it. And when you get to the top of the ridge line, you're going to Hoover Peak. You're going to be descending a nice gully to a large plateau and then a ridge line that leads up to Hoover Peak. And you can see that adventure on Las Vegas area trails. Okay, we're closing in on the trailhead. And just for the records, my trip to the base of Gold Strike Peak took 5 hours because I was spending time figuring things out and looking at the route and which canyon to go. experimenting to the right, to the left in the canyon. But curiously, my time back to the trailhead from the furthest point at the base of Gold Strike Mountain took less than 2.5 hours. So that's pretty amazing, the difference there. Half the time on the return trip, even though there was a lot that was uphill. And part of that is just it was familiar ground on the way back. So maybe next time I'll get up to the high point in 2.5 hours and still have 2.5 hours to go to get up to Gold Strike Mountain. We don't know, but hey, we'll find out. Okay, there are roads that head up the hills here and circle around and are another approach to Gold Strike Peak. So maybe we'll try that next time. Head up this road, see how close we can get to the peak. We'll be able to recognize it when we get close. Okay, but for now, here we are. Back at the beast.